The call came on a Tuesday afternoon while I was reviewing quarterly reports in my corner office overlooking downtown Manhattan. Don Javier Castillo's name appeared on my screen, and for a brief moment I considered letting it go to voicemail. Our relationship had been strained for years, reduced to obligatory holiday texts and the occasional awkward lunch. But I answered anyway. "Elena, we need to talk about the wedding," he said, skipping any greeting. I set down my pen. "What about it?" "Camila and I have been discussing the guest list." He paused, and I could hear the hesitation in his voice. The kind of hesitation that comes before delivering news you know will hurt. Her business associates are flying in from all over the country. Very important people in the marketing world. CEOs, creative directors. You know, Camila's company is at a critical growth stage. First impressions matter in her industry. She needs this wedding to reflect a certain image. I leaned back in my leather chair, staring out at the skyline. "Just say it. We think it would be best if you didn't attend. Camila wants to keep things classy, sophisticated. Her friends are all very successful and you're still." He trailed off. "Still what?" "You know what I mean, Elena. You're 32 and you rent an apartment. You drive a 10-year-old Honda. You work some vague government job that you can never really explain. Camila's friends, her colleagues, they're going to wonder why my daughter isn't more accomplished." The words hung in the air like poison. I'd heard variations of this my entire adult life. After Mom died when I was 19, Don Javier had remarried within 2 years to a woman who made it clear I was a disappointment. Now at 61 he'd found Camila 15 years his junior, ambitious, image-obsessed, and apparently embarrassed by my existence. "You're uninviting me from your wedding because your fiancé thinks I'll make her look bad," I said flatly. "Don't be dramatic. We're just trying to maintain a certain standard. You understand how important this is for Camila's career. Her business is everything to her. This wedding is essentially a networking event. Having you there with your situation, it would raise questions." "Why situation?" "Elena, please. You're an adult. You have to understand that sometimes we make sacrifices for the people we love. Camila needs this wedding to be perfect. Her company, Prestige Marketing Group, is on the verge of major expansion. She's worked incredibly hard to build her reputation. I'm asking you to support that." I thought about the weekly calls I'd fielded from him over the past 3 years. The ones where he'd casually mentioned Camila's business struggles. The ones where he'd suggested I might know someone who could invest. "So you want me to stay away from your wedding?" I said quietly. "The wedding that's 3 weeks away. The wedding I already bought a dress for. I'll reimburse you for the dress. This is just how it has to be. Camila's friends are flying in from New York, Los Angeles, Miami. These are people who matter in her world. You have to understand." "I understand perfectly, Don Javier." "Good. I knew you'd be reasonable about this. You've always been the understanding one, not like your brother would have been." My brother, the golden child Alejandro, who died in a car accident at 24, leaving my father to pour all his disappointed expectations onto me. "Is there anything else?" I asked. "No, that's it. We'll catch up after the honeymoon. Maybe we can do lunch or something." "Don Javier, congratulations on the wedding." I hung up without waiting for his response. For a long moment I sat in silence, staring at my phone. Then I opened my laptop and pulled up my encrypted email. My fingers moved across the keyboard with practiced efficiency. To Matteo. Chin@elitecapital.com. Subject: immediate action required, Prestige Marketing Group. Matteo, effective immediately, withdraw all capital from Prestige Marketing Group, dissolve the partnership, trigger the exit clauses, and ensure all funds are returned to our holding company within 48 hours. I want every dollar out. No grace period. No negotiations. Elena. I hit send and closed my laptop. My phone rang 30 seconds later. Matteo, my investment manager and one of the few people who knew the full scope of my financial portfolio. "Elena, I just got your email. Are you sure about this? That's 2.7 million in active capital. Prestige Marketing was showing strong growth metrics. I'm sure this will effectively collapse their expansion. They're leveraged pretty heavily against our backing. Without it, they'll have to." "I know what it will do, Matteo. Execute the withdrawal." There was a pause. "Consider it done. The paperwork will be filed within the hour. They'll receive notification by end of business day." "Thank you, Matteo." I set my phone down and returned to my quarterly reports as if nothing had happened. The story of how I became wealthy enough to casually withdraw 2.7 million isn't particularly dramatic. After Mom died, I'd thrown myself into my studies. Computer science and applied mathematics at MIT, paid for by scholarships and Mom's modest life insurance policy. Don Javier had been too consumed with his new wife to pay much attention to my academic achievements. He certainly didn't notice when I graduated summa cum laude or when I was recruited by a specialized government contractor. The work was classified. Even now I can't discuss the specifics, but I became very good at identifying patterns in complex data systems. By 25 I was earning more than most senior executives. By 28 I'd saved enough to start making strategic investments through a network of holding companies and trusts. By 30 my portfolio was worth 47 million. Now at 32 I was worth somewhere north of 180 million. I still rented my apartment because I liked the building. I still drove my Honda because it was reliable. I still worked my government job because I found the work intellectually satisfying. My family knew none of this. To Don Javier I was still Elena the disappointment. I'd considered telling him the truth 1,000 times, but after watching him choose others over me I decided some things were better kept private. I wasn't hiding my success out of shame. I was hiding it as a test. 3 years ago when Don Javier had started dating Camila he'd been thrilled. She'd looked at me expectantly during dinner hoping I might know investors. I had taken a sip of water. I might know someone. That someone was me. Through one of my holding companies I had structured a 2.7 million investment in Prestige Marketing Group. The terms were generous. Don Javier had hugged me for the first time in years when I told him I found an investor. The first domino fell at 4:47 p.m. My phone buzzed with a text from Don Javier. Elena, did you tell Camila's investor something? She just got a call and she's losing her mind. I didn't respond. Later that evening my office phone rang. Elena Vargas. This is Camila, your father's fiancée. We need to talk. I leaned back in my chair watching the sun set over the skyline. Why would I know anything about your business arrangements, Camila? Her voice rose in panic as she realized the withdrawal would destroy her expansion plans. This is about the wedding, isn't it? That's an interesting theory. You're petty, vindictive little. I hung up. The voicemails piled up overnight. By morning I had 17 messages, each one more desperate than the last. I deleted all the messages and went to work. On day 5 everything changed. My personal cell phone buzzed with a text from Mateo. Your father and Camila just showed up at the Elite Capital offices. They're demanding to meet with the principal investor. I checked my watch. I'll be there in 20 minutes. Elite Capital occupied the 42nd floor of a glass tower in Manhattan. When I stepped off the elevator I could hear Camila's voice echoing through the lobby. Don Javier noticed me first. Elena, what are you doing here? You work here? He repeated slowly. Not exactly. I walked past them toward the secured door. I pressed my palm against the biometric scanner and the lock disengaged. I held the door open. Would you like to come inside and talk? They followed me to the corner suite. The nameplate beside the door read Elena J. Vargas, Principal Partner. Camila saw it first. Her face went white. I unlocked the door and gestured for them to enter. My office was larger than my apartment with an unobstructed view of the Manhattan skyline. The walls held my MIT degrees, government commendations and a Forbes feature. On my desk sat a single photograph of Mom. Sit down, Don Javier. You too, Camila. 3 years ago I began. Don Javier mentioned that Camila needed an investor. I personally invested 2.7 million in Prestige Marketing Group. The silence that followed was absolute. You're lying, Camila said. I pulled out documents, bank statements, investment summaries, property holdings. Don Javier reached for the papers with a shaking hand. This is real, he whispered. It's real, Don Javier, but I wanted to know if you'd love me for who I was, not what I had. I got my answer on Tuesday when you called to uninvite me from your wedding. The words landed like a physical blow. Dad flinched. Emma, that wasn't, I didn't mean it like that. I remained calm, explaining how my capital had funded every part of her expansion. The money is withdrawn, I said quietly. That decision stands. But Camila, I'll give you 30 days to find alternative funding. As for the wedding, I won't be attending. They left with a bridge loan agreement. The wedding was postponed. Don Javier called it off entirely 2 weeks later. It didn't feel right getting married while my relationship with my daughter is broken. 3 months later, Don Javier started showing up outside my apartment building every Sunday morning with coffee and bagels. Now 8 months later, we have coffee every Sunday. We talk about Mom, Alejandro, and all the years we lost. We're not fixed, but we're trying. Last week, Don Javier asked if I'd have dinner with him on what would have been Mom's birthday. At the end of the night, he hugged me tightly. I'm so proud of you, Elena. Your mom would be so proud. I still rent my apartment. I still drive my Honda. I still work my government job. But now when my father calls, it's just to talk, to ask about my day, to tell me about his. Thank you for listening to today's story. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to support the channel. See you in the next story.